with us.
Yeah, we're going to have your code and your ticker on this network, and you can't stop it from being traded.
Right.
And so there's a derivative, and then if there's liquidity bonding the prices together, so if, let's say you have Chainlink on Ethereum, and then after launch, price bounces around a while, but I bet that over time that these prices will move similarly.
Right.
Right. I think that the Link ticker on Pulsechain is likely to move similarly to the Link ticker on Ethereum.
Right. Just because of the bridge, right? And
well, because they're bonded by the liquidity.
Right.
And then it's the same code with the same ticker. Now, do you want to pay $100 or $300 to trade it on Ethereum, or do you want to pay a penny to trade it over here? And we already know this answer because they're doing it on other networks as well.
Yeah.
People do trading on alternate networks, and then we're the one that you don't like. Your coins are already here. You don't even have to bridge over. You've already got your free coins here. You can already access them by changing one setting in your MetaMask. It's awesome.
Dude, it sounds
well.
It sounds pretty awesome.
Well, that's the trick. That's the magic. Is you launch this whole network with all these new coins. How do you get those new coins to be valuable?
Right.
But by not letting anyone ever stop the trading, by having the same tickers, and by giving people a reason to back the value of the things they got free.
Right.
By rewarding them with a yield farming token. It's like a giant vampire attack, basically. It's a giant vampire attack.
Hey everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back indeed. The title of the video is Richard Hart leading the battle for our freedom. So we're going to be covering a bit of detail in his reply to the SEC. We didn't get to cover that yesterday. It came out, we got an issuance of that, at least a file of it. We couldn't actually print it out ourselves. So we got a file of that just after the live stream closed. I mean, it was just after. It was crazy. But we did cover a lot of the other documents. So we're going to have a look at that today. We're also going to have a look at some of the latest election results from a Rasmussen poll, probably the best pollster out there in the US, the most objective and balanced. We're going to check that out. And we're also going to look, obviously, at the huge pumps in stock market crypto. And, of course, Pulsechain getting lifted as well as an opinion from a lawyer as well. So we've got a lot of stuff here. We're going to look at Jackson Hole. Man, we've got a big show. I think today's going to be my biggest show this week. Yeah, let's see where it goes with this. Hope you guys are enjoying yourself and enjoying the green pump. We got lives beneath in the house there. Hello, how are you today? Very, very good. Hex PulseX incentive for the win, 100%. We're going to be talking about a few things in that today as well that I haven't really touched on much. It's just sort of been sitting idle. We're going to talk about that too. Let's get in here. Sandy says, hey, Hex Token, everybody. Hey, Sandy, always a pleasure. Sandy out there doing great work in the Pulsechain Hex community and crypto. As well as health and fitness, of course. So big shout out to Sandy. Let's see. We've got Archie in the house there, the head of the Protectorate, the family of families. And, of course, the syndicate. What, they got the syndicate in there? They've got the Yakuza. They've got the Illuminati. And they've got the Hustlers. So mega powerful, controlling 6 out of the 10 paid spots on the Mafia game. And Archie is the genius behind that. With his left and right hand man, as it were, Max Payne, and of course myself, as long with the rest of the family members who are crushing it out there. Just keep doing a great thing. Archie the Don Capone sees everything, so you do get recognized for that. So big shout out to everybody in the Protectorate families of families. So pretty awesome, eh? Let's have a look at it. $268,000 now in Mafia. Yesterday, it's gone up today. It's probably even higher. So I might have to put a post out about that. Heading towards 300K if we get these prices going. So pretty exciting. Brendan's in the house there. How to Superman and family. Hey, Brendan, good to see you. A TA guru. Get into the chat there, Brendan. Let us know what you think about the Bitcoin going up at the moment, maybe even Pulsechain as well. If you could do that, that'd be great. If you get a bit of time. Let's see who else is in here. We've got Spike as well. Yo, peeps. Hey, Spike. It's been a while. Good to see you. And get into the chat. Get lively, folks. This is going to be a fun show, very informative show today. So let's get in there, folks. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Hit the bell. We are streaming over 10,500 subscribers over 3 YouTube channels. Of course, Hex Token, Superman Crypto, and Pulsechain X. A big shout out. Excuse me. Pulsechain X really been growing really well. So a big welcome to all the new members over there. Hope you guys enjoying it. All right, without further ado, let's get into the content. And of course, we've got the Bitcoin rocket in the background. How about that? And the rocket. Let's go. And of course, let's get into the results. So we had the stock market. Stocks surged while Treasury yields and dollar retreat after Fed signals lower rates. Woohoo! Yeah. That's what we've been waiting to hear. So it's kind of cool. We're going to look at that. in detail. So that's about going to be a cool video. Let's look at the results in the Dow Jones, up 1.14%, looking awesome. 464 points. So the index for Dow Jones, which has got the top 30 industrials in it, is at 41,175. S&P 500 is up 1.15% as well, 64 points to 5,634. The NASDAQ is up almost 1.5%, 254 points to 17,874. So a really great day on the stock market. But look at this US dollar index, down at 100.56. Isn't that crazy? Down 0.8%. That has been, remember we were up at like 105. Now we're down at 100.5. And so are we going to go below 100? That's crazy. And of course, we're expecting that with interest rate pivots, right? And potentially, obviously with interest rate pivots, a devaluation in the US dollar, all things equal. And therefore, commodities should boom, right? Boom, boom, boom. Chaka-laka-laka, boom, boom. How about that? I just made that up. That's kind of cool. But that's how cool it's going to be. So we've got crude at the moment is up 2.7%. At almost $2 at $75 for West Texas crude. Brent oil crude is up 2.33%. So big moves in oil today. $1.80 at $79. We don't really see much in the Iranian attempts yet on Israel. Obviously, the US has placed a lot of fighting power out there as well as Israel. Yeah, looks like that's going to be good news for peace. We want peace, obviously. So that means, not scaling it up into Middle East conflict, as we don't want that, obviously. So that's kind of good news. We got gold at the moment is up 1.25%, $32. Woohoo! At $2,548 for gold an ounce there, and silver up 2.8%, 81 cents to $29.86 for silver. So if you got some silver, it's getting worth more value. So it's going to be really, really good. And interest rate pivots with the devaluation of the dollar. That's going to just, go on a real bolter. And of course, people are talking about $75, $125 range for silver. So let's see where that goes coming up along with the crypto bull run. So really, really good stuff. We're going to talk about Jerome Powell's remarks, but we're going to watch a video for that. Yeah, it's basically the key outline though from this video will be Powell's talking about the time has come to cut interest rates. So that's awesome, right? So that's basically the key outcome. The time has come to cut interest rates. So let's check out Jerome Powell at the Jackson Hole conference, and it's about 8 minutes video. It's got lots of very interesting and important information in there around the Federal Reserve chairman's view of interest rates and pivoting. But it looks like they have now timed the signal, which is really great. The other thing, of course, the video is on a low quality format, so please excuse that as we go. All right, let's get into it.
Has declined significantly. The labor market is no longer overheated, and conditions are now less tight than those that prevailed before the pandemic. Supply constraints have normalized, and the balance of risks to our two mandates has changed. Our objective has been to restore price stability while maintaining a strong labor market, avoiding the sharp increases in unemployment that characterized earlier disinflationary episodes when inflation expectations were less well anchored. While the task is not complete, we have made a good deal of progress toward that outcome. Today, I will begin by addressing the current economic situation and the path ahead for monetary policy. I will then turn to a discussion of economic events since the pandemic arrived, exploring why inflation rose to levels not seen in a generation and why it has fallen so much while unemployment has remained low. So let's begin with the current situation and the near-term outlook for policy. For much of the past 3 years, inflation ran well above our 2% goal, and labor market conditions were extremely tight. The FOMC's primary focus has been on bringing down inflation, and appropriately so. Prior to this episode, most Americans alive today had not experienced the pain of high inflation for a sustained period. Inflation brought substantial hardship, especially for those least able to meet the higher costs of essentials, like food, housing, and transportation. High inflation triggered stress and a sense of unfairness that linger today. Our restrictive monetary policy helped restore balance between aggregate supply and demand, easing inflationary pressures and ensuring that inflation expectations remained well anchored. Inflation is now much closer to our objective, with prices having risen 2.5% over the past 12 months. After a pause earlier this year, progress toward our 2% objective has resumed, my confidence has grown that inflation is on a sustainable path back to 2%. Turning to employment, in the years just prior to the pandemic, we saw the significant benefits to society that can come from a long period of strong labor market conditions. Low unemployment, high participation, historically low racial employment gaps, and with inflation low and stable, healthy real wage gains that were increasingly concentrated among those with lower incomes. Today, the labor market has cooled considerably from its formerly overheated state. The unemployment rate began to rise over a year ago and is now at 4.3%. Still low by historical standards, but almost a full percentage point above its level in early 2023. Most of that increase has come over the past 6 months. So far, rising unemployment has not been the result of elevated layoffs, as is typically the case in an economic downturn. Rather, the increase mainly reflects a substantial increase in the supply of workers and a slowdown from the previously frantic pace of hiring. Even so, the cooling in labor market conditions is unmistakable. Job gains remain solid, but have slowed this year. Job vacancies have fallen, and the ratio of vacancies to unemployment has returned to its pre-pandemic range. The hiring and quits rates are now below the levels that prevailed in 2018 and 19. Nominal wage gains have moderated, and all told, labor market conditions are now less tight than just before the pandemic in 2019, a year when inflation ran below 2%. It seems unlikely that the labor market will be a source of elevated inflationary pressures anytime soon. We do not seek or welcome further cooling in labor market conditions. Overall, the economy continues to grow at a solid pace, but the inflation and labor market data show an evolving situation. The upside risks to inflation have diminished, and the downside risks to employment have increased. As we highlighted in our last FOMC statement, we are attentive to the risks to both sides of our dual mandate. The time has come for policy to adjust. The direction of travel is clear, and the timing and pace of rate cuts will depend on incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. We will do everything we can to support a strong labor market as we make further progress toward price stability. With an appropriate dialing back of policy restraint, there is good reason to think that the economy will get back to 2% inflation while maintaining a strong labor market. The current level of our policy rate gives us ample room to respond to any risks we may face, including the risk of unwelcome further weakening in labor market conditions. So let's now turn to the questions of why inflation rose and why it has fallen so significantly even as unemployment has remained low. There's a growing body of research on these questions, including Gowdy Eggerson's work, which we'll shortly discuss, and this is a good time for this discussion. It is, of course, too soon to make definitive assessments. This period will be analyzed and debated long after we are all gone. The arrival of the COVID-19 pandemic led quickly to shutdowns in economies around the world. It was a time of radical uncertainty and severe downside risks. As so often happens in times of crisis, Americans adapted and innovated. Governments responded with extraordinary force, especially in the United States. Congress unanimously passed the CARES Act. At the Fed, we used our powers to an unprecedented extent to stabilize the financial system and help stave off an economic depression. After a historically deep but brief recession, in mid-2020, the economy began to grow again. And as the risks of a severe extended downturn receded, and as the economy reopened, we faced the risk of replaying the painfully slow recovery that followed the global financial crisis. Congress delivered substantial additional fiscal support in late 2020 and again in early 2021. Spending recovered strongly in the first half of 2021, and the ongoing pandemic shaped the pattern of the recovery. Lingering concerns over COVID weighed on spending on in-person services, but pent-up demand, stimulative policies, pandemic changes in work and leisure practices, and the additional savings associated with constrained services spending all contributed to a historic surge in consumer spending on goods. The pandemic also wreaked havoc on supply conditions. 8 million people left the workforce at its onset, and the size of the labor force was still 4 million below its pre-pandemic level in early 2021. The labor force would not return to its pre-pandemic trend until mid-2023. Supply chains were snarled by a combination of lost workers, disrupted international trade linkages, and tectonic shifts in the composition and level of demand. Clearly, this was nothing like the slow recovery after the global financial crisis. Enter inflation. After running below target through 2020, inflation spiked in March and April 2021. The initial burst of inflation was concentrated rather than broad-based, with extremely large price increases for goods in short supply, such as motor vehicles. My colleagues and I judged at the outset that these pandemic-related factors would not be persistent, and thus that the sudden rise in inflation was likely to pass through fairly quickly without the need for a monetary policy response. In short, that the inflation would be transitory. Standard thinking has long been that, as long as inflation expectations remain well anchored, it can be appropriate for central banks to look through a temporary rise in inflation. The good ship transitory was a crowded one, with most mainstream analysts and advanced economy central bankers on board. I think I see some former shipmates out there today.
All right, so it was from the Jackson Hole summit there, and Jerome Powell there talking about he was didn't want unemployment to get any worse. I think it was about 4.3%, something like that. He had inflation at 2.5%. Their target's 2%, and that's kind of where it's going. And so it's basically signaled they will be looking to a rate cut now. And so September is looking really good. Now, here we are on the tool monitor here for Fed rate monitors of what the market thinks. So the market, 64% of the market, so 2/3 of the market is now expecting a 25-point rate cut there by September. So that's in 3 weeks, 4 days, and 17 hours. The market has loved this, right? We've got in November, at the moment, we've got another, the market pretty split, but the dominant here is actually another 50 basis point rate cut in November. So it'll take us to 75 basis points. And then, of course, in December, our third rate cut, potentially, we could have a 25-point rate cut there. And that would take us down to 4.5% on the federal funds rate. So that would be 1 percentage point over the next, the rest of the year from September through December, which will be pretty good. That's right in the middle of our range we're hoping for, between 75 basis points and 1.25. That's kind of where we are at the moment. So that's kind of cool. Now, I would want to say a couple of things there. His economic summary about 2020 to now is obviously missing a lot of very important things. The Biden administration, when they got in, they attacked energy. That's the last thing you want to attack in the economy. They also ramped up spending. So did the Congress. And of course, the Federal Reserve printed trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. So he missed out all of that conveniently. And of course, that's why the US economy has had a lot of issues there. Obviously, the debt, as we talked about the other day, breaking new record highs in the US. So there's a lot of pretending going on. But the good news is that the Fed rate cut's coming, and this is good for markets, and that's what we ultimately care about. Apart from freedom, that is doing very well for our bull run, and the markets have really responded really nicely. We got Crypto Clays in the house here. Morning to you. And we got Trev Newman as well. Superman, you're a machine. Greetings from Dominican Republic. A shout to you, Trev, as always. And let's move on from the stock market and economic news to the green, super dark green. So anything dark green is over 5% up. Anything in light green's under 5%. We got BTC up, baby, up, baby, up. I mean, this is awesome. So we're up 1.25%, 1.5% on the stock market. We're up 5.8% on Bitcoin. So a massive move for Bitcoin. $64,000, up 5.8%. The Bitcoin dominance is at 54.8%. We've got Ethereum there at the moment is at $2,765, up 5.2%. Solana, another winner, up 6.4% to $153. You can see others below 5% increase today. BNB at the moment, 1.7% at 590. Tron there up 2.2% at just under 16 cents. And of course, we know that Tron's had a lot of stuff around the US dollar minting, $1 billion, etc. You've been keeping up to date with that. XRP up 1.8% at 61 cents. ADA, of course, which has got the Chang fork coming up. That's up a 4.14% and just under 40 cents at the moment. That is kind of where we are at the moment as well. We also got Matic up 6,500%, so not too bad. And Litecoin, they're doing pretty well, up 3.8%. So there's some of our leaders there. Optimism, second layer on Ethereum, that's up 6.6% at $1.60. So doing pretty well there at the moment. So not too bad. You can see the meme coins are really up pretty strong, over 5%. We're going to cover that in a minute too. So overall, that's pretty cool. Now, the other news we've had besides Jerome Powell and the Fed and the interest rate cut signal is that, and that's our official pivot, right? That'll be our official pivot in September, is we had Kennedy Jr. there has suspended his race, at least in the battleground states, and has endorsed Trump for the battleground states. Now, that's going to have a significant probably a couple percentage point move for Trump. So we're going to look at that at the end of the live stream when we do our election results. We're going to got the latest Rasmussen report, but that's also been probably seen pretty well for the markets. Obviously, Trump's going to do pretty good there. Let's go into the Bitcoin. We've got Bitcoin at just rising here. This is on the hourly. So you can see it a really nice rise. We're sitting at $61,000, and we have that nice super big rally. Got all the way up to 64,987, so just about $65,000 US. So a really nice $4,000 move. Look at that, beautiful overnight. This is on the hourly chart. Last couple of hours, just tapering off a little bit here, sitting at around 64,000 at the moment. So looking pretty good on the old hourly there. Looking at the daily, let's have a look at the daily there. This is the daily, so we've got the blue line is the 200 moving average, and the yellow line is a 50-day. Now, we were talking about if that yellow line crossed below the blue line, that's a death cross, right? We want to keep our golden cross in play, and so far, so good, right? So far, so good. We've got the yellow line now turning back up. We've got, obviously, the 200-day moving continuing its way up slowly. It is currently at 59,537. The 50-day is at 61,606, and we are now at 64,000 above both of those. That's really cool. Now, if we zoom out a bit further, we are just kind of moving sideways with the volatility that we expected in August. And I don't think we're going to have we're still going to have volatility through September is probably likely. So let's see where we go from there. Obviously, we're coming up to this interest rate pivot. As we said, is only 3.5 weeks away. So that is pretty cool. But September is normally the pullback month, one of the two big pullback months for crypto. So we'll see what happens. I'm still expecting volatility through here. Maybe a bit of a zigzag up there, but still holding up relatively well, right? Because we want to target 100K by the end of the year. That'd be pretty epic. And we know people like Mike Lee, analysts who called correctly the S&P 500 target by himself. He's the only one out of the analysts that did it last year. The commercial analysts that get followed. And let's see if he's right this year. We're looking forward to that big move to 100K Bitcoin, right? So we've got the interest rate pivots. We're going to have 3 of those by the end of the year, probably somewhere between 75 basis points and maybe 1.25%, and probably in the midpoint there. Let's see where we go. And of course, we've got the US election coming up on the 5th of November. We're going to cover that data at the end of the live stream, so stay tuned for that. Should we cover it at the end or should we cover it now? Let's do it now. Let's pull it up quickly. Let's go to the US election here. So we've got the latest Rasmussen poll. We've got Trump at 49% and Harris at 46%. So the last Rasmussen poll had Trump at 49, but Harris was at 45. So there's been a little close there up until the current time. But this doesn't include JFK announcement today, right? So that's really, really big. Now we can see that 2% say they'd vote for some other candidate, and another 2% are undecided. So it's 4% points there. And of course, a good number of that we're probably going to vote for Kennedy, and of course that would go to Trump. And particularly in the battleground states there. So that's kind of the bullish news there. So we're looking forward to the next poll results there from Rasmussen. Rasmussen has to be probably the best objective pollster out there. A lot of the rest of them are quite corporate, and they hold back the results, and they sort of pretty much working for the Democrats to some degree. And it's a little bit dodgy. They can always move a poll left or right, you see, the way they set it up. So you've got to keep objective, consistent results. That's kind of where we are there. Let's have a look at the overall map here that we're on the realclearpolling.com, realclearpolling.com. We've got here the RCP Electoral College map. And so let's go to which one I was on here. No toss-ups. No, which one was that? Senate House electoral map. I think I was trying to go to no toss-ups. So at the moment we've still got Trump Vance at 287 on this no toss-up states, and we've got Harris Walsh at 251. That's kind of the play there at the moment. Let's go back to the RCP. RCP has all these sort of contestable ones, like Wisconsin's here, and let me just highlight over. I've gone too far, like Michigan. So let me just go back here. So we've got these states here. I clicked that again. Too clicky. It's too clicky there. Let me click there. We've got Wisconsin here and Michigan. These are the two ones that are going to be hardcore battleground states at the moment. I think the polls are slightly showing up to this point. Have shown, excluding JFK announcement today, have shown Harris slightly in front, very slightly, but we'll see where we go there. And obviously, we've got North Carolina and Georgia that shows Trump pretty much. Pennsylvania also shows a Trump in the head there. So those are kind of where we are with the battleground states, and Virginia there possibly slightly to probably a bit of a break even between the two at the moment. We'll see whether all that changes around, but those are the two that Trump will be wanting to get back, obviously from the Harris nominee. So we'll see how we go there. Overall, though, 219 versus 201 with 111 toss up there for the US president there. And I think you need 270 to win, don't you? So 270 to win on that. So that is where we're kind of sitting on the election results at the moment on that one. But it's going to be very telling once we get a new poll survey with the JFK out, right, and endorsing Trump. So that's going to be really, really positive there. Obviously, I am a super supportive of Trump. Freedom. We had Trump was in power. We had world peace. Since Biden, we had calamity, right? The Afghanistan withdrawal was disgusting. US soldiers got killed. Civilians got killed. They left all those weapons for the Taliban. And I don't know if you've kept up to date, but today the Taliban have moved to reduce even more women freedoms. They can basically getting shut out of society. And they're basically being, thrust home and not allowed to move around and things like that. So they've really moved them back into the dark ages. And apparently that's what the Democrats like to do. So there's probably no surprise there. So yeah, world peace. And we had world peace in the Middle East. And we had wars under the Biden administration and Harris, of course. They are the current administration. So they've got all these problems, and they're talking about fixing the problems when they get back in power, but they're already in power, and that is the hilarious part of them. So fingers crossed we get freedom and prosperity and safety with Trump and Vance, of course. That's going to be pretty cool. That's kind of where we are at the moment. And of course, Trump victory, he is pro-crypto. Harris is pretending just for election votes, and then, of course, betray you at the end. So that's kind of where we are there at the moment. And no specific real policies coming out of there. Now moving to Ethereum at the moment on the hourly. Obviously had a really nice run up for Ethereum. Got all the way up to $2,800 on the hourly. So a really nice move there. Let's go back down to the daily at the moment. And we can see the daily. So Ethereum performing relatively below Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin's got the bullish measures with the 200-day. We actually have a death cross here on Ethereum. And we've actually had a pretty, a nice little bounce here from 2,339 on the daily back here on the 8th of August. Now we're at the 24th of August, and we had a nice little pump here, but still relatively behind, up nice 5% increase or so, but still relatively behind the Bitcoin. We also haven't taken out the all-time high at 4,900. We also see that, off peak, Ethereum's been down at 1 Gwei, 2 Gwei. And of course, a lot of the traffic has moved over to second layer protocols, Optimism, Arbitrum, a base chain, and other chains like that. A whole litter of EVM second layers there, and so that's really taken out some of the light there. They may be they're a victim of their own success with proto-dank sharding, and of course they've got full dank sharding coming up in the future at some stage. So that's kind of where we are there on the Ethereum line. Let me jump into something here. I just want to say hello to a few people in the chat first before we get into meme coins. Let's see here. Go into some of these comments about what I've just said. Let's see here. Let's go back. We got Nate in the house there. Let's go, says Nate Dog. Hey, Nate Dog, great to see you in the chat again. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. Trev's in the house. Hey, Trev. God keep Trump safe. Absolutely, man. That bullet head movement was unbelievable, wasn't it? Absolutely unbelievable. As Brennan says, sentiment seems to be driving this move today. For markets, ETH needs a golden cross. Absolutely. And of course, we're still in that death cross. I think it's going to be a mini death cross with Bitcoin going up, but still, lagging there. Michael's in the house there. Trump seems down with BTC now. I think the Fed moves will be lackluster for crypto, but Trump, it's going to be bullish, man, for crypto. It's just going to be an amplifier. He might just go all in and shit can up the Fed or something. Yeah. Well, he's already said he's going to remove Gary Gensler. We know that the talk on the street is that Harris is going to actually promote Gary Gensler to the head of the Treasury. So if that would occur, obviously that'd be a disaster. And that's why I said they just lie, and they're actually going to be anti-crypto. You watch them because they want control and power. So there's no good, supporting crypto, because that's all about freedom, right? And that's what Richard's been fighting for, against the SEC at the moment. That's why he's taken it, expanded it to constitutional issues and stuff like that. Brendan says, great move from JFK today. Yeah, really, really good. Positive move there. The first Kennedy to do that, right? To back a Republican candidate. Pretty incredible stuff. Trev Newman there. Harris at 46%. And Sandy, who would vote for her? I would put her at 4.6%. Yeah, well, she had the initial upward swing when you do that. And also the Democrats in the mainstream media and pollsters have been setting it up to give her that glamour and all that. She's hardly gives any policy. She just, you get rabbits on. And of course, that's kind of where we are. But that's probably going to subside. There's certainly enough time before the election for that to subside. And with this JFK move, it's going to be really cool to move some moderate Democrats. You got to remember, liberal Democrats have been pushed out because the Democrat Party has moved so far to the left and globalist left, right? So not just socialists and progressives, but globalists, they are leading them. So socialist progressives are really useful idiots for the globalists. And so that's pretty much where we are at the moment. And of course, they're messing up the rest of the West as well, not just the United States. That's why it's so important to countries like New Zealand and Australia. We already see what some of the ramifications from their globalist policies are causing havoc. Murder, rape, victims, everything else you can imagine has been really bad. So Trump is the only thing left to stop the complete takeover of power and instigating, some things like the EU with all their rule-based stuff, camera surveillance. Everything else, they'll be bringing it in faster than you could imagine. IDs and all the rest of it, credit scores, they are going to move fast on that. You watch 4 years. If they get that, it will be the end of the West as we know it. So that's how this is a century in the making election. It really is that powerful. We got freedom is crypto, says Trev. Yeah, well, that's what we're looking forward to. Hey, Trev, it's a good comment. Let's get into it, and let's go for, we're going to start talking about memes, of course, big memes. So let's go. We got, obviously, we're back in Bitcoin memes. This season is the first season for Bitcoin memes on the Runes protocol. We've obviously got BRC20s, ORC20s, things like that. We're going to have version 1, version 2 coming out for BRC's 20s. We've obviously got ordinals. So this has been really huge last year. Obviously, Runes are big this year with the Bitcoin halving. And of course, Dog Go to the Moon, we're backing that for the winner. We think this is going to be absolutely huge. One of the ones we talk about in our strategy club and Discord. The link's in the video description if you want to join up to that at the moment. So Dog Go to the Moon, it's back up at 5.15 sats. Let's give it a refresh just to make sure we got the latest and greatest. It's had a really nice rally starting to mount on this, and it's getting pretty close. Okay, it's just dropped back a little bit there to 5.05 sats with the Bitcoin coming down about $1,000, but that's kind of it's a leverage play on Bitcoin, right? So it's going to move up and down leverage wise versus Bitcoin. It's up 5% at the moment. The market is up. It was sitting below 300 million. It's back over 322. Was up about 330 million just earlier at 5.5 sats. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. Pretty modest little gains here on some of these. And I'm sure what's happening with my browser, but let's go to top runes. Yeah, it's not picking up some of the other lists there. There's a whole ton of them, and it's just not bringing that up. So I'm going to have to try and fix that up. So that's going pretty well. Let's have a look at the ordinals on the ordinal list. Yeah, I mean, look, Bitcoin Puppets up 14%. Some nice movers. Netcat up 25%. BTC Machines up 25%. So we got some nice moves on the ordinals as well here on Magic Eden, the number one DEX for runes and ordinals. So pretty cool. Let's have a look at Dog on the chart. So this is Dog on the chart here, and we can see that this is a Gate.io, which is the number one exchange for Dog, and we can see that as soon as Bitcoin started rallying with that $4,000 move or so, Look at gate for dog. It has gone up and away here. So we started off down at 29/100th of a penny. We managed to get all the way up to 34/100th of a penny. It's very close to a complete breakout. Let's have a look at the daily just to show you that, to zoom out and have a look at dog on runes on Bitcoin. And let's see how that goes. Hopefully we're going to reload. I'm a little bit of trouble with that today. So this is the chart here. So this bottom yellow line is the linear chart resistance. And of course, this top line is the log resistance chart. So it's obviously higher. We broke out the linear here back about a week ago. And of course, here we are teasing to get up to the log. Also on the moving averages, we've also had a confirmed golden cross here. I haven't got that on the chart, but we have had a golden cross there on the shorter time frames. But you can see a big move today that we just had. We started off a brand new day here, and we're actually breaking through that log resistance. So up and away for dog. The sentiment continues. Then the leverage play of dog. We could see some big giant green candles, potentially like some of these, and potentially we eventually get some of those tier 1 listings that dog is chasing, right? So that is kind of the narrative there. We kind of keep a tab, but it's at a very critical junction here for the breakup, and we could get some massive re-rates there as well. So let's see where we go with that. Looking at overall meme coins over the whole market, we've obviously got Dogecoin at the moment at the top, $16.4 billion. So that's gone up nicely this week, 12.5%, up 6.44% today on Dogecoin. Looking at some of the other cool movers, SHIB is up 16% for the week, 8% today, 25% for the week for Pepe, 11% today. So we're getting some of these really nice moves on meme coins that everyone likes to chase, the magic money in crypto. We've got Dog with Hat there, 31, up 31%, up 11% today. They're all up nicely. Look at that. Bonk up 18%, 7% today. Floki up 31%. So really nice moves on these. Brett on Base Chain up 26%, up 7% today. But look at the big move here. Popcat up 71%. This is what the meme coin dream is about, right? Popcat on Solana, 71.5%, up 24.7% today, up 2% on the hour. And this is magic money right there in the motion on the old Popcat on Solana. We've got Bomb there is up 21%, up 7.5%. So some nice moves here. Cat's in a dog's world. Moo token there is up 30%, 17.7% today. Some real nice moves, etc. So we've got some good stuff happening. Mockcoin up. Let's just make sure I've got the right order there. We've got Mockcoin up 31%. And look at this. Pepcoin here has managed to move in above Dog for the time being, up 60%, up 25% at the moment. Dog sitting back there. I think it's probably dropped to number 13 or 14 now, up 16% for the week, 8.67% for the day. But watch out for Dog. It's about to get that huge breakout. So it's had a confirmed golden cross, and also had about to break that log line, this log resistance. So we'll keep a tune on that. But that is the meme coins at the moment, and they're all looking pretty fat and green, looking pretty good. Total market of crypto, 2.27 trillion. And it's up almost 6% today. So a huge day for crypto on the back of that crypto news, and potentially also influenced by the JFK as well there. Nice, not bad. Right, that's going to bring us into Pulsechain news, which is the title of the video, Richard Hart leading the battle for our freedom, Pulsechain, PulseX, and Hex. So we're going to get into that too. We've got no more comments in the chat there, but get in the chat there. Let us know your comments there as well. All right, let's jump into the main discussion here we're going to have. So this is Richard Hart. He posted this out yesterday. If you haven't seen this is all about his motion to dismiss and his reply that he did. So really cool. Remember, he's got the dream team of lawyers, and we're going to check that out too. So the next thing after this document is going to be the oral arguments on the 24th. That is where the battle is done in the courts, and we know a lot of Pulsechins, Hexkins, etc. are going to go to that, like Randy Alasky. So that's going to be pretty cool to see that. But let's get into the actual document. This is his reply. So kind of cool. Now, yesterday we read the April motion to dismiss. Today we're reading his reply to the SEC that came out in July. That's also posted on the court listener as well. But here it is. So reply memorandum of law in support of defendant Richard Hart's motion to dismiss. Woohoo! So the plaintiff is the SEC. The defendant is Richard Hart, and of course the Hex and Pulsechain and PulseX, which is this moronic, but it's in there. So that's kind of the play there at the moment. This is the table of contents. We can see the arguments that are here. So we've got a preliminary statement. We've got this court lacks personal jurisdiction over Mr. Hart, right? So we've got that. We've got the first one here. The complaint fails to establish personal jurisdiction relating to the alleged Hex offering. We've got the complaint fails to establish personal jurisdiction relating to the alleged Pulsechain and PulseX transactions. We've got exercising personal jurisdiction would not be fair or reasonable. So we've got a reasonable test there, fairness test. We've got the SEC has abandoned its purported alter ego claims. This here is really important. We're going to highlight this one. That is really important there. So the SEC has abandoned its purported alter ego claims. This is already losing from the SEC point of view. So this is really good already for the case. So the second one is the SEC has failed to adequately plead the existence of a domestic purchase, sale, or offer or securities. That's the one there. So the SEC fails to allege a domestic purchase of sales of securities in connection with its fraud claims. Obviously, very important to shoot down these fraud claims here. The Dodd-Frank Act did not override Morrison's application to the SEC's fraud claims. The SEC fails to satisfy the conduct and effects test. So this test will be a raw battleground in the courts, of course, in any event. So that we're looking for a favorable judgment on that. The SEC fails to allege domestic offers or sales of securities under Section 5. The SEC fails to allege domestic sales of securities as to its Section 5A claims. The SEC fails to allege domestic offers of securities to its Section 5C claims as well. So those there will have to be met and tested. That's going to be battled out there for those sections. The transaction the SEC alleges are predominantly foreign. And of course, we get to the third argument there. The complaint fails to state a claim for securities fraud. The SEC fails to plead deceptive conduct. So all these sort of tests are going to be challenged in court there. And of course, the SEC fails to support its scheme claims with alleged omissions. The SEC cannot assert a scheme claims based on alleged omissions. The SEC identifies no misleading omissions to support its scheme claims. So no real specific stuff to support their arguments. Very, very bland. That's why I said from a layman's point of view, always found it very, very weak. The SEC fails to plead center there as well. Moving to number 4, the opposition does not address the complaint's failure to adequately allege that any parties entered into an investment contract. This is going to be very important as well. The complaint does not allege the existence of a contract, transactional scheme that created continuing obligations for Mr. Hart or anybody else. The opposition, because remember, it's software we're just interacting with, right? And of course, sacrifice, etc. So the opposition misinterprets Mr. Hart's continuing obligations argument as a dispute about the Howey test, and so the Howey test is going to be very important too. And we're looking forward to that. Profit for the work of others, etc. All that sort of stuff. We've got the complaint constitutionally, and this is where I really love it. This is the fight for freedom part. The complaint unconstitutionally infringes on the First Amendment rights of Mr. Hart and thousands of individuals who use Hex, Pulsechain, and PulseX. So it's going to have wide-reaching and ramifications. So this is going to be really, really exciting to see that challenge. The SEC should not be granted leave to amend the complaint either as well. So the SEC trying to play clever games. And of course, they're trying to shoot those down so they don't try and bring, rubbish evidence and all sorts of stuff into the game. So that's kind of the play there. Obviously, a lot of list of tables. I'm going to scroll through all that case law. And then we've got the preliminary statement. So we're going to read through this part, I think. We're going to go through that part. Yeah, we're going to go. You're going to read through that. We're going to go through all the arguments, but I will post the link to this if you want to read it through. We're going to look only at one section of the arguments today, but it's well worth a read if you want to see where things are heading. Defendant Richard Hart's motion to dismiss lays bare numerous glaring legal deficiencies in plaintiff in the SEC slapdash complaints. So, pretty crappy complaint about really a pleading consistent with the SEC's ongoing haphazard campaign to punish people. This whole general approach from the SEC to punish people who create or interact with blockchain technologies, right? Haphazard, just a piece of rubbish, really, and that's what Trump's going to, get rid of Gary Gensler and put in a proper, clear regulatory regime, right? That is what we're looking for there. At the apex of these improper efforts is the current attempt to muzzle Mr. Hart using a narrative riddled with factual inaccuracies. That's what I said. From a layman's person, don't have to be a lawyer or a judge. It just seemed just a very weak set case, right? So if you ever put an argument together, no matter whether it's law or whether it's any other sort of academic area or in practice, just writing a good essay, for example, it was a pretty bad essay, right? You're going to give them a C- or something? I don't know. It was pretty bad. Cherry-picked statements and misguided legal theories. And I think this is where the battle's going to be done in the court, potentially, and a lot of those tests that we just talked about. It's going to be, I just think it's going to be a field day against a lot of this stuff because it was so poorly written and the arguments are so just looks like someone just pulled them together and thought they were going to get a good job at that. It really was pretty poor. Tacitly admitting its inability to defeat Mr. Hart's arguments for dismissal, the SEC now lobs a new putative evidence, twists its timelines to suggest that the alleged offerings were promoted long after they had concluded, peppers in opposition to Mr. Hart's motion with unpled, unsupported allusions to non-existent US connections and conjures up new allegations found nowhere in the complaint. And this is where I think these US connections are really quite weak. I think they're going to be a hammer those in the court. None of this can salvage the SEC's complaint, which should be dismissed with prejudice in its entirety. So a full dismissal should be dismissed rather than getting like 80% dismissed and then carrying on with the remaining 20%, right? That's kind of the play there. First, the SEC says almost nothing to rectify the complaints. The complaints are jurisdictional shortcomings and instead admits the complaint insufficiencies by resorting to new purported evidence. But the SEC's 11th hour facts still fail because they either post-date the alleged offerings at issue, bear no relevance to the jurisdictional inquiry, or both. Second, the SEC attempts to overcome Morrison's bar on extraterritorially by relying on authorities involving detailed US-centric allegations not present here. Lacking such allegations, the SEC litters in opposition with references to the United States not found in the complaint or otherwise substantiated. The SEC cannot simply wish domestic transactions into existence. Absolutely. I think that's a huge area for exposure. It's a really a decentralized blockchain globally, so it's kind of crazy in terms of the offerings. The third, the SEC fails to salvage its incoherent fraud claims. And this, I think, is going to be very important to kill these, particularly around, the Justice Department and everything else, that whatever they do there. Instead, remember, this is a civil case, right? Instead, merely repeating its conclusionary refrain that Mr. Hart's conduct was inherently deceptive, blah, blah, blah. You can make claims, you've got to prove it, right? Alleged users of funds that do not comport with the SEC's preferences are not deceptive if no representations whatsoever were made about them. The SEC's incredulity and indignation that individuals would partake in the transactions at issue do not approach a viable fraud claim in the absence of anything fraudulent. So I really feel like we're going to have a good go at this. And really feel like it is in our favor. Obviously, the judge is going to decide on that. Fourth, the SEC misunderstands Mr. Hart's argument that an investment contract requires a continuing obligation, whether it's part of a formal contract or informal transaction or scheme. The complaint does not allege any such continuation obligation, so there is no investment contract here, and the federal securities laws cannot apply. Very important there. Critically, the opposition identifies no case that says otherwise, so no evidence there from other case laws there. Rather than address the point, the SEC spends pages responding to hypothetical Howard test arguments. Yeah, that's no good. That Mr. Hart does not make in his motion. Building a straw house and then blowing it down does not address the legal argument Mr. Hart raises before this court. That happens so much time. That's really bad legal arguments as well as logic arguments, right? We see out in the world. Fifth, the SEC fails to grapple with all of Mr. Hart's First Amendment arguments. It ignores the unconstitutional, and this is where we get into this Rich Hart leading the battle on freedom. It ignores the unconstitutionality of cobbing together purported securities entirely by cherry picking words from hundreds of hours of public commentary of protected speech, resulting in content-based discrimination unsupported by compelling government interest. The SEC also overlooks the unconstitutionality of its proposed injunction, which would dismantle blockchain-based public speech and impose a prior restraint on Mr. Hart's future speech by prohibiting him from interacting with communities that depend on blockchains for the exchange of ideas. So it's very primal here with the Constitution and freedom with the First Amendment. So it's a really good challenge, and it should be something that the media picks up, particularly maybe Fox News or somebody. That is pretty cool. Now, that is the summary there. So we're not going to get into all the arguments, but I did want to get into one part, and I think I may have highlighted it. So let's see if I've found that now. So I will post this link, of course, so you can read the full arguments in detail. And, let me see, we're up here. This one here, the SEC has abandoned its reported alter ego claims. This is D here, and this is on page 22. So let's go to Herb. So Nico Herb's here is apparently a practicing lawyer that's been participating in some of this sort of stuff before. And he picked out something here, going through everything again today in this document that we're reading through now, and still thinking about what was filed by both sides. But this stuck out to me, so I thought I'd share it. Now, we're not going through the SEC side, right? We're going to the response to that, the SEC's response in July the 8th, I think it was. But this stuck out to me, so I thought I'd share it. First, SEC complaint alleges alter ego liability, right? So that was the second, the SEC response brief completely abandons that theory. And that's a real weak move first on. So this is actually really good for the Richard Hart case, right? So that is a real weak move on the part of the SEC. if you're a judge looking at this objectively and you now know that SEC put something so completely retarded in its complaint that it didn't even try to defend it after being called out on, how much deference do you give to the SEC on the other factual allegations or in the case, or in the claim, I should say? Yet Judge, we know we completely made this part up without any legal justification whatsoever. But the rest of the stuff in the complaint is totally accurate and valid. Pinky swear, he says there as well. So this is this part here, which you can see on page 2. So that's the one they banned it here. Typically embarrassing, right? Very embarrassing. So let's see what the Richard Hart's lawyers say about this. The SEC claims concerning purported entities serving as Mr. Hart's alter egos must be dismissed because the complaint fails to adequately allege that any such entities exist, let alone as Mr. Hart alter egos. And of course, they post here some of this amicus curiae brief of Pulsechain Foundations was put in. You can also see that document. Apparently, recognizing that it cannot sue software, the SEC does not respond or even mention the term alter ego in the opposition. The SEC chose consciously by its silence to waive and abandon any argument could have been made in respect to the alter ego entities. All claims premise on the SEC's alter ego entity theory, therefore, must be dismissed. So there we go. Hey, so that was pretty cool. And a nice one there by Nuclear Herbs there pointing that out. So that is pretty much that on there. I'm going to leave the whole document if you guys want to read it in your own time with all the details. But that is kind of the highlights from my point of view. So obviously you can go into the details and pick out some of the good weaknesses that they've pointed out with the SEC case there as well. But we're not going to go quite through that. We'll be here for a bit of time doing that. All right, so let me post that there. That is the link to that document. So that's from Richard Hart as well, remember? So kind of cool. All right, let's see. What else? We got some more comments in the house, have we? We got Pineapple in the house there. Morning, Superman. Divine energy power to you. And I like the title. Hey, thanks for that, Pineapple. Appreciate that. I see same people, usual people here. Hi to everybody. Yeah, we've got Rigs. Rigs are the best. Chief says this is the best live stream and no dopamine, just clear narratives. Freedom is a massive narrative, and RH and Pulse is the answer. We will not yield. Trev, nice one. Really good summary. Very nice compliment there. All right, let's move on, and we're going to get into Pulsechain. And of course, day 470, I think it is. Have we got time? Yeah. No, actually, it must be 469. So we've got Pulse at the moment. At quadruple 0372, up 1.7%. So very modest lift here. Obviously, a big lifts in the rest of the market, stocks and crypto. Pulsechain, very modest lift here at the moment. 1.75%, up at 37% of the mean sacrifice price at the moment. PulseX is not even at over 2,000 yet, but is up 1.15% at 119.4 there. So 4 zeros, 194. And of course, we've got the buy and burn ticking away, 958.4 billion. PulseX has been bought up and burned. That's now 4.74% of the public supply. So there are people, we're going to get to talk about Hex in a minute, but incentive token at the moment is $1.87, up 2.23%. Obviously, 1 3/4 of that is Pulse price. The ratio is up slightly to 50,500 Pulse per incentive. The total supply, I don't think we've had this updated yet. Still not been updated yet. It seems to get lagged or something like that. So that's not updated on the supply. Can't even get rid of it now, can I? Let's click that again. Still going. All right, so a little bug. Is it a little bug? I don't know. We got, was it just me? We got Hex at the moment. It's up pretty good, actually. It's almost, it's equal to incentive token today. Just over 4,700 of a penny and up 2.22%. EHEX at 1,300 of a penny, so that's up as well from yesterday at 1,200 of a penny. Combined price of EHEX just up slightly to 0.6 of a penny. Hex there looking pretty good. Now, we know there are a number of groups out there looking to build on top of Hex. So we obviously have had Alex McFurter, we've had Dipcatcher and Golki, but there are other teams looking to take some of the supply away. We know that we're coming up, obviously, and we'll talk about that with the Hex stakes coming up, the 10-year ones, later in the year. So when we get the Hex chart, we'll talk about those dynamics. But that's where we are. Modest gain at the moment. We'll get a bit of a bigger pickup over the next 24 hours, probably. Let's look out for that. I think we might get these candles might go a bit bigger there as we enter day 470. Let's go to the Pulse charts. We've got the weekly. I'm going to quickly go through these since we're at 54 minutes on the hour. This is the weekly candles on Pulse. So we've got 2 little green weeks here. Not too bad. We're pretty much down at the bottom with the SEC case. But as you can see, I think the SEC reply is actually very positive. The SEC not talking about those alter egos, are very weak. And that's there. They've really created an Achilles heel for them. and I think that's pretty positive from a layman's point of view. So there we are, sitting up at quadruple 0372 at the moment. We've had obviously those dismissals there in yellow, in green, and not bad there. So let's have a look at the full chart. As like I say, we've got the oral arguments coming up on the 22nd, and then we've got 22nd, yeah. No, what's showing the 21st. We've got the US election there just after that. So if we have good outcomes there. Now, once we get the oral arguments in October, we are expecting it to take maybe 30 to 90 days afterwards to get a response from the judge. And yeah, not really expecting one straight away there. Obviously, have to consider the evidence and things, and we might see that. Now, how much of the case is going to get dismissed? The whole thing, 80%. We'll see where that heads. But that may, if it mostly gets hit pretty hard, then maybe we only have maybe the information discovery goes down dramatically, right? And that's what that's what is going to be the drag on, the not that great outcome, because that's impacts March to June next year, right? So we're trying to get this case dismissed, or most of it at least. And then, of course, the US election, if Trump wins, we've got the insurance policy potentially that he heads up a new SEC leader, gets rid of Gary Gensler, and, of course, puts in a new person and drops a lot of these frivolous cases, potentially like Richard Arts, and then makes very clear regulation that's not harassing the crypto blockchain space, but actually just giving clear regulations that can be built upon. And that's all that industries want, right? So that's kind of the play there at the moment. That might give us insurance policy in so maybe around February, maybe March, something like that. So let's see how we go before all that information discovery. So things could get improved there. Let's kind of see where we are there. That's Pulse. Obviously a very good buy zone at the moment. Over here we're pretty much down on the RSI at 34 on the weekly, moving quickly to the daily. The RSI is sitting at 44. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. So nice accumulations over Pulse at the moment. PulseX has been the better of the two, right? It's been going up against Pulse, and we got here this uptrend is still intact. Looking at the green week, looking pretty nice, and we're at 41 on the RSI. Does it say 41? Yeah, 40, just under 41. And looking at the daily, the RSI is sitting at 42, and we are nice, comfortably just riding up this yellow line, right? Let's go back to the weekly on that, and you can see that we've got this nice support there. We've also got a good support at over 1800. Currently at 1944, almost back at 2000. Want to get over that for sure. What else are we going to say about this? We've got higher lows, of course, over time. So, PulseX is doing very well. Versus Pulse, of course, we can change that ratio, and you can see that Pulse has actually gone up. Sorry, PulseX has gone up over Pulse. So it's been a really good move if you'd moved into PulseX. Let's go back to the weekly and look at the US dollar one more time. And I was going to say one other thing about this. I was going to go daily actually. See these moving averages? So we actually had a sort of a bearish cross here. We want to get those crossing. We get that pink line crossing over the purple line. Could happen in the next few days, given the good momentum out in the market. Then we've got another bullish move, right? We might get another bullish move like that. And of course, that would bounce us off that yellow support line that we've been tracking there on PulseX and move us up to the right. So things are looking pretty good, honestly. The sentiment's there as long as the market holds up. But I still think it's going to be generally volatile for this, the rest of August and September, which is typically the down month, right? Before we get to October, which is the bullish month. So PulseX performing fairly well, on the whole as well. So Incentive Token obviously has been a darling of the ecosystem. People are loving the INC. And of course, we may end up having protocols. Heard of a protocol coming out that may end up burning INC. Can you believe it? So I think that's going to be related to possibly what is it? Not Dragon X, Solid X. That game may end up burning INC, I believe. So I'll try and confirm that again, but that could possibly be the case. So that would be pretty neat. Take supply off the market. 50,500 right in the middle of this zone, performing like a boss as the INC. It's been really, really impressive there at the moment. The RSI pretty low, down at 41. Hex, of course, is kind of the steal to pick up right now. Hex, people looking at more protocols. I think the Dragon X founder, I think Access Alive and people like that have been looking at these sort of things. So that's kind of cool. We might get more protocols, using Hex up, right? Get more use cases for Hex to get Hex off the market. Going to be pretty bullish. The other thing about Hex, of course, is 2029 to 2030. We've got the 10-year Hex stakes coming out. If the Hex price is pretty attractive, we might get a lot of penalties at the end of this year, beginning of new year, 25, maybe into 24, 25. And of course, that could be huge for reducing T-shares. And so, yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see all that supply T-share squeeze. We got to also see movements by the Origin account. Could do a whole ton of staking like it did on Big Payday. That would jump the share rate to some degree. We could see the Hex Goldwell do some stuff. He's obviously staked some stuff, a lot of stuff. He could end up doing another big Hex Goldwell buy mode. There's lots of things can move this chart around pretty quickly. We know the liquidity is relatively smaller than the Pulse and PulseX. And so, yeah, it could be some big things happening in Hex in the future. Don't fade. It's up to you what you do. But, yeah, this could be an absolute buy zone for Hex right now. Leading in for the next couple of months at least. So with the court case over there. So yeah, so it could be fun. Lots of different moves there to potentially be paid for Hex. We got Hex, not to mention the Magic Outride, right? Magic Outride there obviously bought in around 37,000. So obviously wants that to flip back, but there's other sources of money too. So we're waiting for Ethereum to go back to 3,700 plus. Obviously with that longer move and maybe in this year. How fast the re-rate happens in crypto, and I'm really picking October for a real nice move on that one. All right, so yeah, EHEX pretty much the same argument at the moment. Might have faced some resistance there, ratio resistance, moving through from 7/10 of a penny through to 1.4 cents. That's the only difference here. Magic Outride is on the Pulsechain, as we say, but not too bad there at the moment. Looking at the Hex derivatives, let's have a look at the players there. Maxi, the 15.2-year Hex mining pool, up 7% today. The 10-year one, the DESI, up 4.75%. Speaking of Hex derivatives, lucky they're up 4.5%. So we're probably going to get some more Hex derivatives that will help take supply off the market and things like that. Who knows? It could be really, really fun to see it all play out. Trio next is up 3.75% as well, the 3-year one. Moving to stable coins, we actually had a bit of a move on PDI yesterday. Still up, actually, up 5%. It's looking at 1900th of a penny. So that's pretty good there. Now, this LUSD, I think it's not going to do it. I don't think it's going to make the game. It had a little bit of optimism, but just not really that impressed with what I've seen on the old LUSD, speculative, stable coin. Let's have a quick look at the burn on this one. Talked up big numbers, but just don't see that happening at the moment. So I think PDI is still the speculative one to back on this. And let's have a look, see whether we can pull up the burn here on the dress. Actually, let's go to this. Forget that. Let's just go to the website. I think it has a burn stat on the website on LUSD. These are speculative, highly speculative, of course, stablecoin narratives. But let's go to the burn. Where we up to? Yeah, welcome to the journey to burn 99% supply. Really struggling to see that at all. Yeah, 4.5% still on the website, it says 4.492. So yeah, don't see that happening, even with higher volumes, more volatility. 5 months. 5 months was the target, 10 trillion. Just don't see it happening. So there we go. Hey, it does not harm having $150 in it. Maybe it's always a punt, but maybe $150 is better spent elsewhere. Maybe in PDI potentially, or you just forget these speculative stables and you go for something else that may be really pumping in the next month or so. Right, so there's a lot of decisions to always make. You can see the PDI chart that's ticking away. You had the uptrend has come back, bounced off 1200th of a penny, currently at 900th of a penny. Maybe it's consolidating here, and it's going to have another go at that 1 cent mark there. If it does that, of course, it is got quite a bit of move. I know that was it Moon King and people like that are big behind PDI. It's $426. Remember, speculative there as well, and of course, there's narrative around Richard Hart and contracts and things like that. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. Now moving to influencer coins, as you guys know, dropped off Maddie Allen yesterday. Sorry, Maddie, but $500 liquidity, not going to make it, and just the way it goes. So let's look at the best performer today. Bromance from Ben Armstrong is up 7.6%. Axis Alive is up 5.8% there. And of course, they're moving into a lot more development, software and stuff as well. So it's cool to see. SolidX, Firewhale, Randy Alaski's friend, up 5% on that. That is probably the pick out of the bunch at the moment, given the fact that they've got that big game coming, the Crash game, and it could potentially benefit Incentive Token as well, as we talked about earlier. So $16.90 there. So if you want to pick up some SolidX, has definitely got, given the development road with that big Crash game, could be quite cool. It's going to be multi-chain too, apparently. So yeah, look for that. That could be a really nice little pickup here just before it takes off, right? RSI down at 47 on the daily. So that is kind of the ones that you could consider. What else we got going there? Steve Hitson, 5%. Note token from Randy Olasky at 1,500th of a penny, 4.6. I think this note token's probably going to have a big move at some stage as well, given that Randy is really trying to expand the effort. And of course, got Corey Costa out there as an ambassador for his token ecosystem and no permissions, right? Crypto group, so not too bad. Even Trayvon, more token, up 4.5%. Not too bad there, right? Not too bad. So that's the overall markets. Let's go to the Pulsechain. Let's go to specific markets. Go to the overall Pulsechain. $9.6 million. So much better volume today. We're down at 7 million, I think, yesterday. So nice to see that. And we've got another 30,000 transactions or so, up at 230,000. Not too bad there. Moving to the overall with there, it looks like Grays. I said this is one of the better ecosystems, is the Grays currency. And of course, their related tokens like UFO doing pretty well there, up 15.5%. Mike Monsters Inc. is up 15%. Looks like relatively new. It's got 30K of the volume in there. Peach has been around for a while. That is up 15% as well. BBC token from 9inch, the incentive token for 9inch, up 14.6%. Not too bad. Let's have a quick look at that, see how that is moving over time. So that is it on the weekly basis. We've got a nice little green week here for BBC. So it's the bottom in for BBC and 5.7 cents. We're currently at 7.5 at the moment. We're going to make a nice move. We shall see. Just remember that the bottom has been 2.5 cents, but we're back up here now at the moment. So let's see where that hits. Remember, 9inch is the third biggest exchange at the moment. So taking volume there, it does benefit also from DEX aggregators like Patias and things like that. Portal X and stuff. So yeah, we're talking about the Grays doing pretty well on the list there. Permagif doing pretty well there from was it Gearhead Crypto Kool-Aid. That's up 9.2% and up 18% on the 6 hours. Not bad there. Access Live, we talked about that. Of course, UFO related to PDDC, part of that ecosystem, is up 7.8% as well. Teddy Bear doing pretty well there. Now, Teddy Bear and PDI are Moon King's kind of two tokens, isn't it? Teddy Bear and PDI, so that's up 7.7% as well. So Moon King will be pretty happy about that. Those are kind of the leaders there, the trending leaders amongst the top there on the old Pulsechain. Now, looking at the breakdown of that 9.6 million volume, PulseX at the moment is doing 8.4, so the majority of it. 9mm is the second biggest one there with $760,000 worth. Got 13,400 transactions, so out of that 230, 13,000 is related to that. The best performer there, got some little meme coins popping up. Looks like TWV there doing a reasonable. They've got some moves there at the moment on those. A lot of different jump up coins. What else have we got? 9inch is doing 351,000. It has got 24,000 transactions. So more transactions, but less volume, right? Less volume. Yeah, about half the volume there over on 9inch at the moment. But of course, it's doing pretty well on some of these speculative coins that they have over there. All right, that is pretty much it for that. Let's go to the gas prices at the moment. Let's do that. And what have we got there? 141,000 beats, 0.2 of a penny for PulseX swap, 100th of a penny for Pulsecoin transfer, and 300th of a penny for PRC twin transfer. Gwei on Ethereum, man, oh man, oh man, one Gwei still, crazy. 523 times cheaper than Ethereum though. So that's where we are, all that value over here. And of course, we've got the Magic Carp Ride still on Pulsechain. So yeah, kind of cool. Let's go to validators, 48,421 validators, 1.55 trillion Pulse off the market. And of course, we've also got Pulse off the market with, the liquidity forks for the stable coins, with liquid loans, Power City, etc., helping out with Pulse, PulseX, and of course Hex as well, with Hex DC. Now, the bridge is our heartbeat, right? That's our lifeblood. So it looks like we're up about 1.1 million today on the bridge, 94.155 million there. And we've probably got a big lift there, obviously, from Ethereum and the Wrap Bitcoin that are on the market there. PDI looks pretty similar. Looks like USDC is actually up slightly, I think. Just the top of the memory there. USDD similar there, and EHEX is up slightly as well, just very slightly, from 1,200 penny to 1,300 penny. Kind of play there. Let's look at the other stablecoins though, and see what that's looking like at the moment. So, looking at our native stablecoins on Pulsechain, we've got USDL at the moment, backed by Pulse at 9.3 million. We've got PXDC, they're backed by PulseX at 1.46 million, and we've got HexDC there down at 701,000. So what's that? 10 million? What's that? 11.5 million dollars in native stables at the moment, based on these. And then we've got 4.4 million in Coast, backed by fiat, right? Fiat currency, US dollars and stuff like that. So that is Coast sitting at 4.4 million. So what do we say we had? We We had 10.5 million, so we got 14. We got about $15 million in native stable coins. That's why I want PUSD Algo to come out, because that's going to solve the scalability issue. Man, it could get. I mean, I don't know. With good marketing, could end up being, if not millions, then potentially could do tens of millions, right? PUSD Algo. So looking forward to that. Now you can get a bonus of 90% in the video description if you want to go into PUSD Algo. We have to wait patiently though, because we've got a long way to go to get that target. But who knows what will come out from Jacob and the ecosystem there. We're going to try and get an update on that. Trev says BBC looking good. Yeah, it's looking good on the old 9-inch incentive. Yeah, 9-inch doing pretty well there today. The volume not so hot, but the underlying tokens are looking good because the market's looking better, right? Sandy's going, thank you so much. You're most welcome. That is it for today. Can you believe it? We've just started a day 470 on Pulsechain, and the crypto sentiment is looking real hot to trot. 110 minutes on the hour, so that's pretty good. 110 minutes. We're 70 minutes, isn't it? 1 hour and 10 minutes in the live stream. So this is probably one of our longest ones we have done, and it's been a fun show. We've covered everything, haven't we? We've covered the economics, we've covered the markets, we've covered commodities, stocks, we've covered crypto, we've covered Pulsechain, we've covered what else? We've covered the election poll results. Man, we just got all around the whole stuff, right? It's always good to be informed. So I hope you guys enjoyed the content today. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, all that good stuff. I'm going to play out the Magic Carpet Ride video. I think it's fairly good when we've got the green markets. Let's play the Magic Carpet Ride, and of course Richard there with his dream team of lawyers doing a pretty good damn fight back. And I think we got some good positive momentum for that case to the upside, right? To the upside. So let's see how it goes in October. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course DCA for the win right now, right? There's some positive news in that reply. And so let's see where we end up. The SEC already capitulating on the alter ego. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see that court case play out. So we've got to be more optimistic than we were, I would say. All right, hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, everybody. And yeah, let's see where we head tomorrow. It's going to be fun. Now, what day is it? Saturday. So yeah, I'm taking my day off tomorrow. I won't be streaming, but I'll be streaming the following day. So hope you guys enjoy your weekend, everybody. Take care for now. Subscribe, like, share, hit the bell, and join the Discord. Links in the video description. And if you want to participate in PUSD Algo, that a referral link is down there. 90% bonus as well. Take care, everybody. Bye for now. What am I doing? I'm still here. Okay, bye. All right, see ya.
In theory, if someone were a billionaire and they had like all this money, why wouldn't they just buy more of the thing they liked instead of dumping the thing they liked? Like if Bezos bought shares in Amazon, would you be pissed off? If Apple does a stock buyback and they buy more of their own shares in their company back from the public, which is a way to turn earnings into yield for the shareholders, do you get mad and yell at Apple? And so we had to come up with a word for this fan fiction fantasy, which is the opposite of a rug pull, called a magic carpet ride. And so if you're worried about risk of a rug pull, what weighted value have you given the risk of a magic carpet ride? And it's just hilarious to me.
It's fun to watch Hex pumping up the charts. It's left behind all kinds of broken hearts who didn't buy the dip, who didn't DCA. And now that we're on a rip, it's hard to look away. Now I'm not the one to hand out free advice, but as for me, I wouldn't dare think twice about buying a bag, since we're still somewhat down. This rocket ship's about to break the speed of sound. You know these wheels are starting to roll. Best to sit back and just enjoy the show, 'cause we're about to ride that train into the heart of Hexaco. I tip my hat to everyone who minds. You're getting paid out while you're killing time. It makes room for a nice vacation to the beach. reach, perhaps a celebration now that you are rich. Ha ha. Ignore the haters who all called you crazy. You studied hard while they were being lazy. Now you're packing bags, about to take a ride up on that rocket ship, mooned up and starry-eyed. I feel these wheels are starting to roll. Best to sit back and just enjoy the show, 'cause we're about to ride that train into the heart of Hexaco. Now that we're summer bound and the sun is bright, I see that it's not round but rather has 6 sides. It's a work of art that's written into code, designed by Richard Hart to make our bags explode. You know these wheels are starting to roll. Best to sit back and just enjoy the show, 'cause we're about to ride that train into the heart of Hexaco. Yeah, we're about to ride that train into the heart of Hexaco.